Yep.
Okay, so as part of our business innovation adversity series, we've had a lot of great feedback on this. And the purpose of these videos in this series is to kind of share some perspective, some good news, some great stories, but also some things that people could actually work on and specifically focus on over the results of the pandemic and the last number of months. So today, I was really excited for this video because this one's all about perspective. So in a moment, I want our guest is Nancy Armstrong, and she's going to introduce herself. And this is one powerful person. Nancy is a professional engineer working for one of Canada's largest corporations. But also the thing I really admire about Nancy is she brings an incredible perspective of a different generation, a different age group, a different relationship with technology. And I've always learned tons anytime I'm ever with Nancy, and we have great conversations. So without further ado, Nancy, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. And this is a great bio. So Nancy, take it away.
Thanks, Neil. So hi, everyone. Like Neil said, I'm Nancy. I'm an engineer by trade, a professional engineer, and originally from the East Coast, so I'll always be East Coast strong, but I work and live out of the Ontario now, but I'm always around and involved heavily within the different industries, technology committees. Yeah. But one of my biggest passions and what we're going to talk more about today is young professional development and the opportunities that we have and how the last few months have even amplified that to look at where we are. I'm a strong believer that you can tackle any change that comes your way. And sometimes you just have to ask questions or look at the different perspective and see where we can go. And don't always take no for an answer or let's try something else, because there's not always the way to do it.
Yeah, and Nancy, you're part of a very strong young professional network. And I've noticed now a lot of the chambers, a lot of business groups. This is a very strong voice. Even in Niagara, we have what's known as Next Niagara. And to me, I always listen to this group because they're our future, and you sense innovation and technology in a whole different mindset. What are you thinking about right now? So we're in December 2020. The last 9 months has been insane, is probably an understatement. But where's your head at right now, especially with what you see has happened, but what's also coming down the pipe?
Well, I think there's definitely some pros to what happened. And for me, I'm very heavily involved in new technologies, development, digitalization, bringing those communication platforms together and promoting technology advancements. So this really helps, as much as it has been a hindrance and there's had to bring some swings and changes, by bringing people and forcing this time where we have to innovate of how we communicate, of how we present things, of where we get together. I went from traveling and flying monthly to I haven't flown since March. How do I meet with these different technology groups? How do I look and communicate with these different representatives from sectors over Canada, North America, and as well as other continents? It's not just limiting here. So I think by having to look at how we do online meetings, how we give our presentations, how we send out emails, how we pick up the phone and give a call and not just messages. I think sometimes that's hard for people, is to have that communication without being face to face. But some people also struggle that they have to have the communication through vocal and not just through emails or saying hi as you go. That's been a huge change for me. I love seeing people in person. I love talking. I love learning and having that representation. But by taking the tools that I've already used and developed, I think that's really pushing everyone to catch up. So not being afraid to say, hey, I don't know how this works or what can we do is a big thing. But all right, so we're not going to get together. How can we make those communications stronger? What tools do we have available? My team is very technology based, so I've had an advantage, but it's been an opportunity for other people that I work with, other groups, organizations, to see, hey, this is why they're doing this. These are great tools. Even within the university, I'm doing my master's right now. So learning how to do online classes and how to do academic work is even harder, I find, than the technical work because that's a different minded set point. So
Yeah.
I think the last few months have been a struggle, but they've been an opportunity for our groups that are very technically based to work with and build from other people, as well as have that communication time that we've maybe just dismissed or had a missed opportunity on in the past.
Nancy, what are your beliefs as a leader? Because you're leading a team, you're in the university academia environment. Like, what do you believe in right now? What do you see?
For me, I think I've taken a step back and really looked at my priorities of like who I'm talking with, how, and not always just putting your head down and getting to work. You still have to put effort into building those interpersonal skills, getting to understand what helps people, and really, really building that team up of what you can do for who has good strengths in this, who can help here, and kind of really creating it. It's harder because you're not in person, but I think it's showing that there are a lot of opportunities of how to set up a meeting, how to call someone, how to upload a file, how to share something, and digital signatures. That was a big curve for a lot of people.
Really?
Passing around a paper that everyone's, oh, yep, I'm here, I did this. How to sign digitally was a big thing. And some of the younger students that I've worked with have been really able to showcase the things that they think are mundane and not useful or just are attuned to them, been able to bridge with those older generations that like write everything down and pass papers around or have coffee and conversations. But you can still do those.
Yeah.
Keeping an open mind is very important right now. Yeah, some days it's a little more overwhelming than others, but just being able to recognize that and be like, hey, can I call you? I have a coffee and let's talk about what you're doing, or even what your dog's up to. Like, you don't have to always be go on the work topics.
Yeah.
But that helps bridge that when you are having issues or needing to get work done, to have that opportunity of openness.
I wanted to share a story with you because you're commenting on the stuff I thought of back in March. Is I put my head around what's going to be pandemic proof. Like, what is it that people can still continue to do? And a couple things I wrote down was branding. People can still brand, but people can still work on the human side of business. And I've been, quoted as saying it's time to get human again. I've pulled out a lot of Napoleon Hill, a lot of Dale Carnegie materials, and the people that I've interviewed have had a relationship to that. But it was last year, I walked in and I was asked to communicate and speak with the engineering class at McMaster University. There were about 30 students in the room, and I didn't really know what to expect. And I had talked with them before, and I've talked to the coordinators, and they've asked me to come back and do some teaching, which is really cool. But I remember walking into the room at night and I was teaching them how to present themselves and kind of the human side of business and body language and all the stuff. And I'm so happy to report that any one of the students in that room could stand and communicate side by side with myself. And I was so incredibly impressed. And afterwards, I had said to the coordinators, I said, that's the most powerful thing I've ever seen, is probably the smartest people I've ever been around. Like it made my head hurt just being with them. But they were so good at speaking and connecting. And it's always where you've been strong too, is working on that human side of business. Hey, I've got the technology, I've got the acumen. I know you're a professional engineer. Like, you're one of the smartest people I've ever met, but you're also realizing now I need to engage a team of all different ages, because the boomers aren't retiring, right? So they're staying in the working world longer. You've got the X's, the millennials, and now the new Gen Zs coming in. Those are all 4 different communication styles. That's what I think you're really focused on, is being able to engage and motivate those teams in a very large company as well.
And that's an interesting topic. I just had a great discussion. I'm on a young professional steering committee. That's kind of, I guess it's kind of global, but we're progressing and going. And one of the conversations that keeps coming up is, how do we teach soft skills? It's a very technology-based organization, but everyone's asking for soft skills. And they're like, oh, that's what we do. We're technology based. But my rebuttal is, if you can't communicate, then you're not going to transfer knowledge and you're not going to get things done as effectively. And that's one thing I struggle with at times, is getting people to appreciate that. I mean, thank you for your compliments, but I'm never going to be the most technical person. I have a good appreciation and I'm interested in a lot of the technical side. But if you can't present your ideas or have a conversation to learn and grow from that, then you're not really going to get anywhere and you're not going to transfer knowledge, or you have a lot of missed opportunities because you have to be able to outreach and get outside your comfort zone. So I always tell my students that you know what you know. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Always, here's what I've learned. Here's what I'm hoping to get out of this.
Right.
Is there anything else you can help me with? And don't be afraid if people ask you questions or have a rebuttal to what you're presenting. That's not a thing. That's conversation. And it can be difficult to navigate, and I get caught up in it at times too, because you don't want to take it personally, but that's part of looking at how you're approaching a topic, a conversation, a new idea, or even just leading a meeting of there's be different ideas. Stand your ground, be respectful, of course.
Right.
Respectful, but be open to seeing what others can contribute and why they have that opinion. Don't just take it at face value. It's okay to ask questions and it's okay to not know the answers.
Right. And one of the interviews I had done previously a number of weeks ago was with a good friend of mine. His name is Alex DeGenis. And Alex and I talk at high schools all the time, and he has a great approach of strengthening students' relationships with failure and adversity. And those are actual skill sets. So not only the soft side of business and the ability to communicate, knowing most interviews are over in 30 seconds. So it's that transference of confidence and the transference of a confidence in yourself. But then there's also the programming of, well, what happens if something goes wrong or if I fail? It's how many times you fail and get back up, which is really important. So Nancy, if there was somebody, kind of watching this video today who, regardless of age or generation, but is looking for some advice, like some things that they could work on right now independently, what would you suggest? What would your advice to be to a professional?
Well, to anyone really, it's just be open-minded. I mean, we're faced with such different times right now. There's so many different factors going on, not just in the advancements of communication and how we do our work, but even just how we go about our lives and things like that. So I think being open-minded, being willing to try something new, and accept that you're not going to be good at everything. It's better to try and learn and grow from it.
Yeah.
That can build your skills of understanding where someone's coming from, how to relate to them by being open-minded. I think there's so many opportunities out there right now for advancements and how people can work together, that it's going to surprise you, whether you're in technology, if you're in communication, if you're in banking. Everyone fits together for a purpose, and you have to be able to bring that together. Present yourself, be respectful.
Right.
Also have a plan where you're going, and opportunities is really how you're going to get that ball rolling.
That's great advice. And even in your industry, it's how do we attract new talent? How will we develop new, younger, very creative, very innovative new leaders? And it's transferring that knowledge from an older generation. That's one of the biggest things that you do every day, and not just your job, but that's important too. So, I really appreciate, you're a pretty busy person. So for you to take some time out today and just kind of talk to us a bit about your perspective. And I'm always amazed at hearing different perspectives and it's not just the pandemic. You mentioned it. This isn't going away. This is our new reality. But your perspective and then the way in which you're leading people is really admirable. How do you want to close, Nancy? What do you want to say? Like, you could yell, scream, do whatever you want. What would you say?
Well, I think that this series is fantastic, just to highlight the different people, the different opportunities. Everyone's in a different boat, but what you make of it and what you take from it is really where we are right now. And I think you'll be surprised at what you can learn by just reaching out, branching out, trying something new, or taking people back to an idea that maybe you didn't get to where you wanted. Digitalization, the communication principles, that human interface isn't going anywhere, even with the increase of technology. You can't have technology if you don't know have people to support it. So
Right.
look at it from different perspectives is huge. So just having that appreciation of where you're going, what you'd like to see, and keeping that open-minded to change, because change is not a bad thing. You'll get some resistance for sure, but you'll be surprised at if you have those communication channels open,
Yeah.
take things forward, that you'll get things accomplished you didn't even see within your view.
Yeah. You and I have talked about people actually don't resist change. People resist the uncertainty of change that's perceived forced on them.
Yes.
So as a leader, we're always talking about the why. Like, here's why we're changing. Here's the changes in your global economy. Here's the changes in our customer base. Here's the changes in political structures. So when people understand that why, then they're more engaged in the purpose of the change and why it's important to them. That's really probably one of the biggest parts of your job. So
Yeah.
I want to thank you. We're like December the 10th. We're almost ready for Christmas. And, for you to take some time out, I want to wish you and your family all the very best. And Nancy, I'm really looking forward to sharing this. So thank you for being part
Thanks,
of this.
Neil. It was great to talk.
Okay, you're a rebel. Don't stop being a rebel.
Thanks, Neil.
Thanks, Nancy.
Bye.